All right, we're live. Thank you, everyone, for coming and watching and hopefully drawing along with our Keven Nowlan study. This is really how I learned how to draw, largely, really. And especially as a professional, whenever an artist does something that I think is really great and I want to try and incorporate it into my work, this is kind of my process for going about that. We did a similar thing with Frank Rosetta a few months ago. It was a member stream at the time. It's available now. You can go back and find it. But what we're going to do is we're going to draw a few pictures from Keven Nowlan. This is Keven Nowlan from his Modern Masters Volume 4. I'll have the book up so you can see it. And we're going to be switching back and forth between Eric and I while we do this. Eric and me, is that right? Eric, whatever, I don't know. And so, because as it is right now, you won't be able to see the reference if we have both cameras, unfortunately. So we'll be switching back and forth. And yeah, let's just go ahead and get started. We don't need a huge introduction. Oh yeah, there we go. Hi, Art9, Powell, Simon Kucher, Salmon, I'm sorry. Supersonico, Prador's here. Johnny Cage. Okay, so let me switch my camera so you're not looking at my face when we're trying to draw here. There we go. All right. And I'm going to switch it out so I'm full camera here, Eric. And so what I wanted to start with, and I'm going to destroy my book a little bit doing this, and if you are familiar with my work at all, I think some of these heads probably must look fairly familiar. I tend to not really draw in full shadows over the eyes this way. I usually like to have the eyes, and it depends, but generally speaking. So what I want to do, because this is a single light source, we're going to start with this head right here. And I'm going to move my stuff out of the way so I can draw. And I'm also... Give me a second here. Apologies, but I'm going to darken my camera just a little bit. Seems a little bit light. Okay, so I had to take apart my whole office so we could put in a ceiling. So I did that this week, and so putting everything back together, my cameras, everything, all the settings got messed up. So it's a bit of a thing. Okay, so what I'm doing right now, I'm just going to go ahead and draw in my basic underform, and I'm looking at this face right here. And this is a really great way to go from, drawing your head structures and just drawing your own face on there will get you pretty far. But if you really want to make them more realistic and stylized, and you really like how an artist does it, doing these kinds of studies is really the way to go. And so that's what we're doing. And so I've got my nose here. My mouth is going to be just about here. Top lip, my bottom lip. I'm going to draw through. So here's my overall mouth. And then we'll finish it out with shadow, even though we don't really see it. I think it's better to kind of have it established. I'm a little shallow with my upper lip there. And these kinds of nuances, I really want to try and pick them up. Keven Nowlan's been a big influence for me for years, but I don't really ever just go through and draw a Keven Nowlan face. And at the end of this, what we're going to do is we're going to draw a couple of our own faces. Maybe we'll do a figure. And I'm going to go through my Keven Nowlan reference and try and find, maybe this arm really works, or, and it's a matter of, I don't need to find something perfect, but just something to give me kind of a waypoint in terms of my lighting and some different things. And it's amazing how much you can get from an artist by doing this. And again, it's just such a great, quick, easy way to improve. So anyway, I've almost got this guy blocked in here. He's a little wider with the neck here. And this is another thing too. It's one thing to learn neck anatomy, but to really learn it in a nuanced way, this is my favorite way to do it, with an artist that really does it well. And I really like how he's got this curvature coming in here, and then he's got the center of the neck defined here. So his body is rotated this way. And get the top of my head in. And so now that I've got that, I'm going to go ahead and lighten it down and then just draw in my basic cartoon. And it's important to me, I don't want to just copy what he has. I am just copying what he has, but I want to make sure that I get the understructure in there in a way that works before I just start throwing in his lighting, because I would assume when he would have drawn this face himself, he wouldn't just draw those shadows and then have a face that works. What he would do is what I'm doing now, and that is to actually draw the face and then use that face as his foundation for shadowing. And so there's a certain amount of interpretation in here because I can't see the eyes. I know where they go, and so I'm putting them in based on where they go. So we're going to do a face here, and then I want to move on to a body, just so we're not doing all faces.
Yeah, you raise a good point, David. These exercises isn't to, learn how to 100% draw like another artist and copy it one for one. It's just picking out what they do best, and then seeing how to apply it to, to what you do. I think what naturally happens is when you do that, you pick up things subconsciously, and that starts becoming your style. But it's not, a blind one-to-one,
No, and this is how you see artists that are clearly influenced by other artists, but they're able to draw their own work. They're not just copying that artist. And this is the process to get there. You really can't be in a position where the only way you can draw is to have that book open and find the exact pose and work from there. I would consider this to be an extension of the kind of study that you do with Bridgman or figure drawing. From life, you're learning from it, and because this is cartooning, you have the opportunity to pick from artists that you like the best and take the things that you think work the most. And it's, I want to bring that out. He had that out just a little bit further here, so let me kind of correct for that. So I know a few of you are drawing along for sure. I know Lance Du Bois is definitely drawing along. And I'll be very curious to see what you guys get from this when we're done. Okay, so I've got my basic form drawn in well enough. And this is enough for me to now just go ahead and kind of analyze his lighting. He's got it lit from above, but also from the left. And it's a very strong lighting. And so I'm going to just darken in my eye socket. He's got it fully dark. And so I can just go ahead and just darken that in. And in the interest of time, I'm not going to be super, super neat with this. But now I'll just darken in the other one. I know that it's dark all the way through here, but I kind of want to take each shape as a block of its own. Above the nose, this is a downward plane. And he's got that defined just like this. And actually his eye socket's coming in just a little bit closer here too. So I'll correct for that. There we go. His brow is fairly simple. I tend to do a really wrinkled, kind of gnarled brow. And it can be helpful for me to work with this kind of reference at times just to kind of rein that sort of thing in. It's really easy to kind of develop habits that work for one thing and then don't necessarily work for something else. And having a range of ways to interpret things is really good. It's got another bit coming in here. It's like this. Now under his nose, I know he's got this plane, and I really like it. This is something he does all the time. Something I think is really strong. He could just draw a direct line all the way across the bottom of that nose, but he really likes to define his nostril just like this, and then define this around it. And I really like how that delineates that plane there. And he's got the back of the nostril dark here, and then shadow from his cheek here. And then he's got his cast shadow coming off of his nose, just like this. So I can get that in there. And now I'm going to go ahead and just darken all this in on this side of the face. And let's get his upper lip. The upper lip is completely shadowed here. And it's actually casting a shadow over the lower lip from here. And the shadow under the lower lip goes pretty far down, just because I'm basically repeating the level of shadow that I have on the eyes below the mouth. And one thing I really don't want to do, I don't want to have a huge heavy shadow down here and then have very little shadow under the eyes. And that's something that Keven Nowlan is incredibly good at doing, is keeping things consistent to a point where it really feels like an overall lighting scheme that really works. And he's so great at defining planes with shadow in a way that just kind of makes sense. This whole thing here is just going to be shadowed out. And I went short with my chin, so I'm going to lengthen that out. I think that looks a little better.
So this is dedication. Dan G said he's at the supermarket, so he'll be listening in. I hope everyone is doing well today.
Well, Dan, I hope you draw this later, because this is where it's very easy to look at artists and be inspired by it. But if you want to be able to kind of acquire the knowledge that that artist has, this is the way that you do it. And you can rest assured that all the artists that you like do this to a certain extent too. Some more than others. My favorites tend to do this quite a bit. And you really can see it in their work. You can see it's like a soup of influences. And the way that you end up not being a copy of any one artist is go through phases, you know? So right now we're in a Keven Nowlan phase and we're picking up as much as we can from him. I could spend months really, and I've done this with my career too, where I spend a few months and I have an artist that I'm really pushing for. Now I already have an established style. And so I'm letting it kind of bleed together into what I already do, but I'm really angling toward the kind of work that they do. And I find I end up with work that ends up looking a little bit odd for a little bit. And I can look back at comics that I've done where I can see I was looking at a particular artist and I was looking at them so much that things look a little bit cobbled together. And he's got a pretty good line defining his hair here. Shadowing in for the ear. Again, pretty heavy shadowing inside this ear here. Matching the shadow everywhere else. He's got a pretty good shadow under his lower earlobe. I don't know. There are names for these parts, I'm sure. Under here. And the way that I shadow my ears very much from Keven Nowlan. He does it much better than I do, and that's entirely as a result of me not doing it enough. You know, I think I should do this more with his work. All the artists that I really like, this is something, if you're not working, all of us would rather be getting work and getting your work out there. But it's also an advantage because it really gives you the time to be able to focus on learning specific things like ears. He's got, through this book alone, but every book that he does, he's got ears all over the place, and they're all drawn with lighting that matches the rest of the face, something that's very unusual. So I mean, for that alone, I recommend him. There's so many things to recommend him for, but anyway, there we go. So there's my basic shadow shapes. He's something you can see, he's got his rendering and it's all coming up in a pattern this way. And this is something that I do. And I'm just going to keep mine loose too. In my own work, he's got just a little bit of line, just defining this right here. And I like how he gave it a bit of a curl there. Bit of line coming from here. And then crossways down this way. And so much of my lighting or my rendering on faces, this is where I get it from this work from Keven Nowlan. And then he's continuing that line through his chin, just like this.
So K-Pack has a super chat for $2. How do you study other artists to develop your own? Pretty much what David's demonstrating here. Yeah.
Thank you so much for the super chat. This is how you do it. This is really the way you do it. There's no secret to it other than you cannot learn another artist style just by looking at it. You have to do it. It's the only way. Unless you're, I don't know, maybe there's some genius out there that can just photocopy in their brain to such an extent that they never need to do it. But yeah, no, this is the way that it's done. And you'd be amazed at just how much you pick up from doing this. And already you can see my face is actually structurally different than Keven Nowlan's. His is much taller. Excuse me. In the bottom part of the face, it's got some character to it that I kind of lost, and that is a result. I accentuated this more than his, and I was really trying to copy his face, and I didn't succeed. And the reason for that is I'm my own artist, and I have my own preconceptions, and you will find that that will happen with your work too. And I wouldn't worry about that. You want to pick up the things that really work. You don't need to completely bury yourself in another artist's work. I see SCS Powerlifting. Good to see you here. He has a super chat for $5. He says, showing that channel love. Thank you so much, SCS. As always, really appreciate it. Allison McGlone has a super chat for $5, and she says, this is literally how I find my, I'm sorry, Allison. This is literally how I found my style. I feel vindicated. Yeah, this is a way to do it. And I know, Eric, you could attest to the fact that this is something you really resisted doing. And you're not the first artist that I've run into that has felt like this is not the way that things should be done. And actually, while you talk about that, I'm going to switch the camera over to yours.
Yeah, for some reason, I need to draw a bit bigger. This is a bit small. Yes. For some reason, I guess we fall into this trap where, we're learning. We shouldn't. Everything should be done from memory. We shouldn't look at reference. Reference is bad. I need to be able to draw, hands from memory and shading from memory, and if I don't, then somehow I'm not that good. Well, yeah, when David started helping me, one of the first things he did was, had me do these exercises, looking at others, looking at reference. And again, it's not a blind copy. It's taking what you're seeing, what they do structurally, sound that, that you like, and then applying it to your own work, shading. Like, you look at the head, it's very much David's head that he drew, but the shading that he applied on top of that is from another artist.
Right. Well, and the shading is my own too, only because I've copied it from Keven Nowlan so many times. And so that brings me to, and I'm going to switch back over now, and I hope you guys are ready. Dustin Hewitt, I'm sorry, Dustin says, same, found my style through David, Jim Lee, McFarlane, and Capullo. Yeah. And I saw, and I'm sorry, I missed it. It just went up, but somebody was asking about looking at the artists of Berserk and some manga artists. And that is something that I've actually done quite a bit of, not with the artists from Berserk, but Masamune Shirow is a big one for me. And I've spent quite a bit of time with his art. Okay, so now what we're going to do, and this is where things get a little nuts, is we're going to draw that same face and we're not going to look at anything. And I want to see just how much I picked up. So I put my book aside. I'm not looking at it, trust me. And I'm going to try and draw that same angle, and let's see just what I can get from that. And this is how you really hammer something home. Just copying somebody, you'll get a lot more, 10 times as much, 100 times, I don't know, a lot more than just looking at somebody's art. But taking this step and just trying to do it yourself, this is my own picture. I don't care how close it is to his. Honestly, the closer the better. But it is officially my art now because I'm not looking at anything. And this is where I make it my own. And I remember the back of his head came out just past his ear. His neck had a nice curve to it. His body was curved this way. So his neck kind of came down here. He had a bit of a line here. And so it was up like this. His hair is just about here. Nose. My mouth is here. I went too short with the chin. Let's try and fix that right away. And I know this because I did it. So I can kind of remember where I went wrong, where I had trouble. The hairline started just in front of the ear, up along the temple. And I'm just loosely sketching in right now just to get my basic shapes in without spending too much time. So there we go.
Oh, sorry, go ahead, Dan.
Louis Julian Toruella's Thank you so much. It has a $7 super chat. And he says, I was an apprentice in an art studio back when I was in university. My teacher taught me the same, also learning to use natural and artificial light. Now, I will admit, Lewis, that I have not learned light the way that I would like to, and I envy you that education. But yeah, and this is a very similar to studying the old masters. Okay, so I've got my eye here. And this is why it's so important to me when I'm looking at an artist's work to properly structure things and not just copy shapes, because I want to be able to recreate that on my own. And so I've got that socket shape here and my eye in it. Say I'm not copying shapes. Meanwhile, I'm talking about drawing shapes. My other eye was here. My cheek, I went out a little bit too big with that cheek. So I'm going to, this time, I want to see if I can maybe even get it a little bit closer just by correcting for that. My nose is just going to be right here.
So, Dave, there were 2 super chats. One that we missed earlier. One was from A saying, hello, Dave and Eric. Excited for the stream. Yeah, good to have you here, A saying.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
And then there was one by Dr. Rock, and I can't find it. Yeah, I can't find that one. So, Dr. Rock, if you want to just send what you sent, not the super chat again, but just the text.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll read that out.
Yeah. Well, great to see Dr. Rock here. All right. And so to me, I'm looking at this face and he feels very lantern jawed. I don't like it, but I'm going to go with it because we'll see what comes of it. It's more than I would do on my own, but I'm trying to be kind of true to, I might have lost it completely, but honestly, if I have lost it completely, I'm going to learn from that. So if this ends up looking really odd, I can, when I'm finished, look at the original and go, okay, this is where it ended up looking so strange. So I'm going to go ahead.
So Dr. Rock was happy that we were starting earlier this time. So
not up quite so late. Well, that's great. Oops. Hit my microphone. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and start to draw a little bit tighter here. I'm going to draw my eye in, and I know it's not going to be in there, but it makes me feel better. It'd be very difficult for me to draw a face with no eyes at all. They're, I mean, obviously a very prominent landmark. And so I know he had his nose like this. Now, I had the advantage of having drawn noses just like this for years because he's such an influence. So this is probably, some of these things are going to be easier for me. What's going to be difficult for me is really trying to actually get the overall look that he had with his face, which I didn't manage to achieve the first time. We'll see how this one goes. My lower lip here, I think I was a little bit wide with it, so I wanted to bring that up just a bit. Right here. And I feel like my chin's projected out a little too much. It's really looking wrong. So even though I'm kind of trying to pick up on what he had, I don't think I was getting it, and I'm just going to go ahead and fix it. I think that looks a little better. Trying to get that chin the way he had it just had me drawing something a little strange that I don't think was in his art. And already my line is a little more confident with this one because I'm drawing this myself. So I'm not methodically looking at how somebody else did it. This is already kind of becoming my own. And so that shape that he had under for his Adam's apple, that kind of thing, that's kind of become my own, and I'm using that. So, okay, I'm going to go ahead and draw in my shadow. I came out too far this way the first time, so I'm going to correct for that and just block this in. So, Eric, you drawing a little bigger this time?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see how it's coming. We're gonna skip over. Put Eric on the spot. Oh, it's looking good. I think he's a little wide between his ear and his eye, though.
Yeah, for sure. We'll fix that.
But yeah, it's coming along. And I mean, you're moving a lot quicker than me this time. Okay. Now I'm going to block in my shadow under this eye. Under my nose. I'm feeling the pressure. Now I'm speeding up that I saw how fast you're going. I'm going to cast my shadow under the nose. It stopped just above the lip here, I noticed. Just kind of like that. So I want to try and make sure not to lose that. The great thing about doing these kinds of studies is that it is faster and easier than you would ever think. This one study done properly, you'll be a slightly different artist coming out of it, maybe even more than slightly. And if you spend, an hour a day, 2 hours a day for a week, you'll come out of it in a very different place than you went in. It really doesn't take much, and it's such a streamlined way to practice rather than every single time you just start from nothing and you're trying to fight with your own drawing. And you're going to do that anyway. I mean, that's a reality, but you can decide the style that you want to have. Do you want to draw like Gary Frank? And I'm listing all my favorite artists. Obviously, you have your own. If it's the artist from Berserk, you can do that very same thing with his art. And fortunately, he passed away not long ago. But were he here, I'm sure he would not begrudge you at all. This is just how we all do it. And so I had a shadow under here. I'm gonna drop that in. Under here, that kind of shadowed and it came up into here. So I'm trying to remember that. I had a pretty good long shadow under here, if I remember. So it was just about like that. And then there was a shadow from my the side of the mouth. Does that have a name? I don't know. I think this was actually fully dark here. I can't remember.
Yeah, I don't know what that muscle is called, but when you shade that in, it adds so much realism to the upper lip.
Yeah, it's a real plane change.
Yeah.
And that's really what's important. It's the changes of planes and remembering what those are. And I think names can be very helpful for that. So I wouldn't want to say, oh, don't bother learning the names. They're not useful. They are. I can't, and you know this, Eric, and I'm sure for those of you that watch a lot of these streams, I can't remember names. I'm the worst with it. Like people's names, my own family's names sometimes. And so for me to try to learn these names, it would be counterproductive. But I think if that's something that you don't struggle with, then absolutely it's an advantage to have. All right, and I had a bit of a shadow here, cast shadow over his shoulder. I'm just gonna go really loose with that just to get it in there. And then now this is me totally cheating because this is the way that I arrange my lighting, and I do this again based on Keven Nowlan. So yeah, very easy for me to just quickly block in some lines here. He had a really nice curvature to that line that just naturally flowed out of his hand here. And I want to say, in my defense, he's probably a righty. It's easier for me to flow a line like that than I would have to turn the page. So
another super chat from KPEC. How can you mix manga and comic art styles together?
You know what? That is such a good question. I think that Joe Mad is a really good example of that. And this was dark here. Let me darken that in. Joe Mad was a really good example of doing that. There are so many things that manga does really well. And then there are things, manga tends to not be as anatomical with muscle definition. So if you like anatomical muscle definition, you can draw, your more manga influenced proportions and then draw more realistic lighting and musculature like American comics, if that's what you choose, or vice versa. So it's taking the things that you really like. Now, the thing that I really liked about, and still do, about Masamune Shirow is his tech is absolutely incredible. And the way he draws his women was really amazing. And so just getting a lot of those lines and a lot of the poses was really helpful for me. So yeah, that's basically my attempt. I'm going to flip it over and see how close I got. Pretty close. I think I lost a couple of things. And let's see here. Let's get my original reference. And so this is what upside down. Hold on. So Eric, you finished with yours?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll switch back to you in a second. See how it came out.
Sure.
So this is my original, and this is my drawing of it, kind of on my own. And so yeah, I drew this myself. So this is my art. There you go. And that's how easy it is. Now, the more you do this, the easier it will be. And obviously, I've been drawing for years and years, so it's fairly easy in comparison to if I was just doing this starting out. But you know what? The process is exactly the same, and what you get out of it is really exactly the same. So let's switch over to Eric and see how Eric's coming along. Yeah, it's looking good. I'm going to say that you still came just a little bit long between the...
Yeah.
Like you'll notice he's got a peak just above his temple for his hair.
Mm-hmm.
And here, let me switch quickly. So he's got a peak right here. And then he's got you can see that kind of, it's like a negative shape in here. And that's a really good shape to kind of bear in mind when you're just as a landmark. So you kind of lost that just a bit. And then it's a little bit far back from the ear toward the back of his head. But otherwise, the lighting on the face is looking really good. And yeah, it seems like he got a lot out of that one. And we have a question from Puxy for $5. Thank you so much, Puxy. How do you manage multiple projects at any given time? You know what? Here's another thing that I lost. I just want to quickly point out that you've got a real plane change here to here, and I think I lost this on both of mine, and I'm going to go ahead and fix for that because I really like how that looked. So you can see the brow here, and then that kind of raises that cheek up there, and I think that looks really good, and I'm going to try and remember that for the future. I really like how that works. So that was something that I think kind of got a little lost in mine. Well, completely. All right. Yeah, multiple projects. I am a little obsessive, so my secret for finishing multiple projects is when I start a project, I work on it until it's finished. And by a project, I mean a page. So if I have a cover that I'm doing, I will draw that cover and not answer emails until it's done. And which is a problem. I end up not answering emails too much. And then I'll move on to the next one and I work on that until it's done. I can't just do half a picture and then move on. I just can't do it. Okay, so we're going to move on. And we've got a few pictures to choose from here. You can see there's a lot of really incredible stuff. I'm going to go with something just a little bit bigger, though. As much as I love all these figures, they're a little small on the page. It'd be a little difficult for you guys to see. He's got a Green Lantern here. What do you think, Eric? What do you want to do next?
I was actually going to suggest the Green Lantern.
Okay, let's do it.
Yeah.
All right. This is probably going to take just a little bit longer. It's all right. I've got a few things to move here. Okay. So make sure everything's visible here so you guys can see what I'm working from. And my basic figure, his shoulders are kind of here. The body comes out here. I'm just working with a really simple line just to kind of establish my proportions. Here's the side of his chest here. Here. That would be the top, or basically the line for his rib cage, line for his chest. I've got an arm kind of coming out this way. I don't draw this way if I'm just drawing. But if I'm looking at something like this, I find just working with these kinds of... Okay, so maybe I should draw the way I actually draw instead of doing this. Sometimes I get too fancy and I think, oh, hey, maybe this will be helpful for me to show it this way. And I don't work that way at all. So, all right, let me get that arm in. And what I'm doing, I just want to get the generalized shape. You can see I've got a line here and then it curves out here, and he has that a little bit, but I've over accentuated it, and that's my own bias. So I'm kind of trying to kill that back, because the whole idea for me right now is to kill my own biases as much as possible and not let it affect the art. It's going to, and I'm not going to be upset about that, but I don't want to just let it happen. And so the base of his neck is here. His head comes up just about here. And then his two major neck muscles are here. Back of his neck is just about here, and then his head attaches to the top. So I want to put his ear here. It attaches just above this muscle.
His right leg is going to kill me.
That's going to be easy, trust me. Super easy. Barely anything.
That's angle I've definitely never drawn.
Okay, so there's basically my face here. My shoulder goes above the face here.
Oh, I need to fix that.
It's an incredible hand.
This is where you're insanely fast, David, for sure.
Oh, is this one taking you a little longer? Coming off the page.
Yeah, this one's going to take a bit longer.
But you've gotten pretty comfortable, all in all, with drawing head shapes. And it shows, that's something that would have taken you quite a bit longer before. And there's always...
Yeah, it was definitely a huge weakness that I had to work on for sure.
Now, I hope that I haven't drawn him too tall or too big on the page to fit his feet in.
That's what I did. I messed up there.
Oh, no. Well, let's see how it goes. The bottom of his rib cage is going to be here.
Yeah, this one's got a mix of foreshortening and
okay,
all kinds of cool.
His hand, he's got his wrist here. The line for his knuckles is here. That comes out here. And then his fingers go here and they kind of come together. So they don't just come out like they're not a block. It comes together in that kind of a shape. And then it comes out here. And you can see he's got that bone on the outside of his wrist right there. And then the thumb just attaches right in there. So that is a really easy way to just kind of break that shape down. I'm going to move my camera up just a bit and move some paper down. I'm going to end up having to work on a different piece of paper because I'm not going to lose his legs. All right. So there's the line from my left leg. And again, I just want to get as much of that shape in as I can, ideally. And then the lower leg is going to come off like this. And you can see he's got a bows out just like this. You could actually draw this as a bit of a ball. The knee.
I was going to mention the ball trick that you use for the calves, especially on his right leg. It definitely comes in handy there.
Ankle here. I tend to like to draw a bit of a line like this, and then my foot projects out from under that. And his foot, something I think is really interesting, the way he defined it, he's got a shape like this here, and then he's got the base of his foot kind of attaching below that like this. And so I want to try it, see if that kind of a shape language works for me. And all of my shape language comes from that kind of observation from other artists. I see, I really like how they define that line there, and I want to see if using that as a form shape works. And I think it did. So all right, moving on. And so now my back leg is going to start here, come down here. I'm going to draw my knee basically there, and then a ball here. And then my lower leg is going to come out of it like that. And then his shapes for his heel kind of go like this. I'm not talking to the microphone, sorry. So there we go. That's my rough in. Now I'm going to go ahead and draw in some proper detail. Let me move this back up. I'll have to reline that up again. Hold on. All right. Chris Reader says, I'm watching but not following along. I just spent 45 minutes trying to get a barefoot sketched in correctly. Yeah, this is how you get quicker, though. It really is. K-Pack is a $2 super chat. Thank you so much. And he says, can you do Olivier Coipel and Pepper Larraz? Pepper Larraz? That artist I'm not familiar with, but certainly Olivier Coipel. And I think that would be actually a great one.
I think Pepe Larez did the House of Powers of X, House of X, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Escobar says, has a $5 super chat, and he says, when you get the chance, you should look up the book Levius. The artist on that book is Harushia Nakata, and I think you'd like his storytelling. Yeah, I'll check it out. And Sheldon Martin, thank you so much, has a $5 super chat. And he says, Dave, when you said you struggled in your first work, but going through you said you struggled in your first work, but your Cyberforce work looks beautiful. Where were the struggles? Well, thank you. First of all, I had the advantage of working with some. Okay, there are a couple of things. Number one, the inkers at Top Cow were very effective at fixing artists that didn't know what they were doing. That helped. Second of all, I actually did quite a bit of work before they ever gave me the chance to do Cyberforce. Like my first issue of Cyberforce, that was like a year in for me. So there's a lot of working through problems and study and that kind of thing going on. All right, so I'm going to block in his face quickly here. And also, a big problem for me, a big struggle, was that I didn't know this. Probably what we're doing right now, if somebody would have explained this to me, it would have changed my life. Because, and I tend to, for the lower face, I tend to like just draw a line down and then give it a bit of a bump out because I struggle. If I try to draw that mouth in there, I just get lost. To this day, I get lost. And so I just draw that overall shape, and then I can draw a line for the top lip. I can define it just like that, and then define the lower lip, bring it in, and it kind of works for me better than if I try to get that in there. It's just a limitation for me. Now, I love how he does his hair. I would actually really like to. There are nuances, like his ear here is great. And I'm actually going to look at it just a little bit closer because it's really well done. I think I'm bigger with my ear. But we don't have time for me to be here trying to copy his hair, so I'm not going to do that. And unlike the painting stream, Eric, I do want to move on to a few different things. And it's very important to me to draw my own picture and then actually go back after the picture's drawn and try to pick up references here and there to make it better. I've already, and I hate to say this, but this is a different pose than I would normally do. And this is something that you'll find will happen. His neck is not connecting properly. And trying to draw that face, I didn't have it really blocked in right. And so now I'm having to adapt. So my neck's going to be just about here. I'm going to have to fix things just a bit. So, and that's just going to happen. Especially when you have biases in your work, it's just bound to happen. Louis Julian Torellis has a $5 super chat. Thank you so much. And he says, thank you for the reference on Michael Matassi. I managed to find one of his books and it's super helpful for my poses. Yeah, absolutely. He is great. I'm glad that it was helpful for you. Thank you. One Mighty R. Good to see you, by the way. Mighty has a $2 super chat. It says, really glad you did the stream. Thanks, David. Yeah, wow, my pleasure. I always have such a great time doing these ones. I love doing the streams with Meredith. They're a lot of fun, but I'm not learning anything. Whereas with this, I feel like I'm kind of learning right along with you guys, hopefully along with you guys as much as possible, even if you can't keep up. Pause it, watch it later, or, ignore me and just do this yourself. You don't have to follow along to this drawing, especially if Keven Nowlan isn't the style that you want. This very same approach works for any artist that you like. And yeah, no one ever told me how useful this could be to learn, and especially to develop a style. I always thought, developing a style was just like I'm really kind of struggling with some of this detail in here. And
I can't tell you how happy I am that he hit his right foot.
What's that?
I can't tell you how happy I am that Keven Nowlan hit the right foot.
Let's see how you're just coming along. That's looking great. Look at that.
Yeah, definitely the profile here with the neck is throwing me off bad.
Yeah, I think you captured that really well. Better than me, actually, with that whole neck area and the way the head attaches. I struggled with that a lot, and I think mine's looking a little awkward. But this is where, and I've done this before, where I've really struggled, and as a result, I've actually gone through and drawn the same pose a couple of times until it felt a little more natural. Robin Senpai is a €2 super chat, €2 super chat. And he says, "Do you know ZHC?" I've talked to him, and so sort of not well though. He was very nice. All right, and so I tend to draw in this area a lot of muscle detail, and he's got it. I'm losing it here, much more simplified, and so it's going to be interesting for me to kind of play with that and. Maybe that'll kind of add a little nuance to my work, so I'm not always drawing such extreme musculature. And this is where drawing different sorts of characters. For instance, if you're only looking at like Simon Bisley, if you're only looking at me, it's going to be difficult to do that because that's just not what we do. And your editor or the needs of your script is not always going to call for the kind of work that I do. I mean, there are certain sorts of stories that because
I wonder if Keven Nowlan was a bit inspired by Alan Davis at all. So I'm seeing some Alan Davis type shapeology in, like, for example, the foot that you mentioned earlier.
Dan G is here. Sorry, he has a $2 super chat. It says, "Just saying hi, great team." Oh man, this is why we need Meredith, Eric. Great stream so far. Thank you so much. And Greg Gallo's here. Good to see you. He has a $2 super chat, and he says, "This pose feels impossible." Yeah, I gotta admit, it's feeling impossible to me too. I'm kind of skipping right now just for a second because you were talking about his influences, and he actually has a section in here about some of his influences.
It shows you how bad I am. I go and look at all the pictures. I don't read the text. I should probably go through and read the text.
There we go. So his biggest influences are Neil Adams, Gil Kane, and you can really see a lot of the Gil Kane, especially in his interest in Green Lantern, Archie comics, which I don't see as much, but I'm so disconnected from this kind of work that I just not as familiar. And Alan Weiss, an artist I'm actually not familiar with. I guess I should be. So, and I can really see a lot of his rendering style and some of his techniques in some of Keven Nowlan's early work. So, yeah, and like this kind of pose right here, I'll tell you right now, I would struggle with that pose. You can really see the influence on what he's doing. And then there's some other ones, Alex Toth up here, Bernie Wrightson, and Bob Oxner. So yeah, there you go. A lot of different influences, and he would have worked in a really similar way, picking up the techniques that they do. All right, moving on.
So are you gonna light and shadow this one too?
Yeah, well, I'm struggling so much with the pose. I don't actually normally ever, as much as I look at Keven Nowlan, my influence with Keven Nowlan has always been lighting. It's never really been structure as much as it should be. And so I'm finding this to be a little bit unnatural for me. And so which I think is great. I don't mean that as a criticism. Keven Nowlan, it's a learning experience for me. So his shoulder should be all the way up in his nose. I don't have it in his nose. I'm not going to try and fix for that now. And this
I did the same thing.
Yeah. It's if I did this 5 times, I would start to be able to get a better sense of his and actually, if you look at this, I feel like my whole arm looks like it's coming down too low, like it's coming out of here as opposed to where it should be, and that's a result of me not doing that properly. So I'm going to fix it, and I will have it coming out of his nose the way he did it, and see if that fixes the problem.
What's challenging too is the anatomy on his leg is not how I draw leg anatomy.
Yeah, but you know what? That's how you really.
Yeah.
It can add so much nuance to the way that you work, and he's got so much work out there. Now something to bear in mind. His leg anatomy is actually a little odd because you have a muscle here.
Right.
So this shadow here, I don't get it. It really shouldn't be there. It doesn't matter, and this is where I don't claim when I'm drawing my shadowing on muscles, I'm not always 100% accurate to anatomical perfection underneath. It's not the point. So I don't mean that as a criticism, but I know that would be odd for me to do, and I wouldn't do it that way. So I would adapt that. For this case, I'm going to try and do it exactly how he did it. but it is strange for me too. And this is where it's so important to have a good understanding from anatomy books of your basic anatomy, because then when you look at an artist, I can say, you know what, there should be a muscle there. That I don't think that combination or that angle is the way that it should be. And so you can make your own choices and use what works and let it in, build on the knowledge that you have. Whereas if you don't know any of that stuff going in, you pick up all of an artist's mistakes, and things just end up being a little more disjointed. And I'm just going to draw a circle here. All right. And Tomacart says, man, how does Keven Nowlan do this? You know what? The guy's a genius. That's how he does it. This is the problem. He's just, he's like a step above. I think I want to come out just a little bit further here to give myself a little more room for that stomach. He's got a very thin torso.
I like the angle change that he has from the kneecap to the shin and the calf on his left leg. It's really something I think will help with drawing an extended leg like that.
Yep. And I really like, he's got his hip defined along here, bit of a curve here, and then it connects there. I really like that. And just a nice shape overall to his leg. So he's got his knee defined this way, and he's kind of rounding his knee around just like that. And so you can see his anatomy, his musculature is rounding around kind of a nice shape like that. I really like that.
Yeah. It's done really well.
And yeah, again, the idea is to pick up on that as much as you can. Okay, I'm going to line this up with my foot that I had here. Get this into the picture.
Yeah, what I meant about the leg anatomy earlier is just trying to shade it this way is going to be a bit of a challenge, but
yeah, there's a point where in the interest of full disclosure, I need to admit that if I don't like I like how he's done this, but it doesn't make sense to me for the way that my understanding of anatomy goes. So truthfully, I would change it. I wouldn't just copy it that way if I don't think it works with my understanding, because I have an anatomical structure in mind. I mean, it's something I've been working on for years, and to just break that, I wouldn't, truthfully. So I think maybe I shouldn't now either, even though I think what he did looks great, and he's a better artist at anatomy than I am. I feel like I'm criticizing him, and I don't mean it that way, but that shape doesn't make sense to me, and I'm going to fix it for myself, and maybe you should too.
I feel like in art, there's I know with the leg muscle, and you and I've spoken about that a lot. Well, not the leg muscle, the leg in general, the way just different approaches that people have.
Yep.
And then working to the outside of the leg is just so many different ways that folks choose to draw that, and
all right,
a lot more ways, a lot more understanding than others, I guess.
So I've got my figure basically blocked in. My proportions are not ideal. This happens to me a lot when I'm trying to draw this way. And actually, this happens to me. I can see this in comics that I've done where I'm looking at too much influence. I'm looking at that influence, and things get a little disjointed on the page. All right. So I'm going to move this over again. Make sure we're in here. And let's take a look at how Eric's coming along quickly again here. Way to go. Yeah, it's looking great. All right, we're moving away from Eric's because he's beating me right now.
Oh, it's so rough.
I think it looks great. Okay, so a few things I want to point out here. He has two light sources on this leg. He's got his light coming from above, and that's his generalized light source, and then he's got a light coming from below. And he's not reflecting that on the leg behind it, which is fine. I guess it could be just a bit of a light here. He's also not reflecting it here, but it could just be a really small kind of a light source there. And he's doing it to separate this leg from this leg. So that's fine. He does have it kind of reflected here. He's got a bit of an underlight here, but it's not consistent because there's no underlighting here while there is here. For my part, if I'm going to underlight that there, I would definitely underlight that here. I couldn't leave it that way. And again, he knows what he's doing. It looks beautiful, but it's a different decision that I would personally make. Okay, so shadowed underneath his eye here. And this is obviously a much more complex drawing. I'm starting to regret doing this one because now I'm going to have to try and draw this on my own. So different than what I would normally do.
Yeah, reminds me a bit of the Frazetta stream we had with that.
Yeah, that one figure.
The guy like flying through the air.
Yeah, what a mess that was.
That was a tough one.
That was. You really left that ear alone. I am going to just block in quickly. Just some shadow just for the base of the hair here. All right. It's gotten pretty thick with his line work on his mouth. That it cuts down here more. And I feel like I've gone a little more squat with my face. So there's elements of that face that I definitely lost. But an overall figure, I mean, that's just going to happen. And this is why you really can't pick up everything from an artist in one drawing. You've been learning how to draw for so many years that it's going to be it's going to be an amalgam of what you do and what you're learning. All right. So an overall big blocked in shape here is very different than what I would normally do, but I think it really works. It certainly doesn't contradict anything that I feel like I understand for myself. So I think that worked really well. I like it. I'm going to do that at some point. The shadow underneath his chest. And he's not really using shadow here, but just to make it, he's using rendering, but just to keep this simple. Now, for my part, I'm telling you right now, since he's got underlighting going on all through here, I know I would, and so I'm going to give it a bit of a rim light there. I can't help it. And I feel like there's no point. If I know that this is the way that I would work, then I'm just going to do it. This is a study for my own artwork. It's not really, this isn't, it's a master copy, but it's master copy from my own learning. So he's got a really large amount of space between his chest and his rib cage, and I lost that here. It's just so different than what I do, and I'm not going to worry about that. Going to let that go. Lighting philosophy, as much as it's such an influential thing for me, is so different than mine in so many ways. Like that stomach, I think really, really works, and it's very different than anything I would do. So I'm gonna have to think about that a little bit to just see what I can pick up from it. Are you lighting yet, Eric?
I'm struggling lighting it, yeah, because I'm with you. It's just a little bit different. The approach.
It's got a pretty good shadow under his chin here. Let me just kind of block some of this in here. And you can really see how much I'm losing with this one versus the other one. It was an easier, it's a head. I tend to get a lot of my facial lighting from Keven Nowlan, whereas this is a little different than what I would normally pick up from him. So it's, I don't know, for some of you that are following along, if you're trying to draw this figure, you might be running into similar problems where it's very, very different. So I really like, he's got his bicep here, comes in, and then he just kind of cuts it down here. He's got his forearm shadow comes across here and then just straight. And such a great way to define that muscle connection. I really like that. There's a little more nuance to how he did it. Has a bit more curve. He really defines that tendon well underneath the thumb there. This is another place where he's very influential for me, for my style, is the tendons on his hands and just overall lighting on hands. I've really picked up a lot from him over the years. And I can't say as I've ever actually just copied one of his hands. And after this figure...
His hands are incredible.
Yeah, they really are. After this figure, we're going to draw our own figure and use his lighting and as reference and to inform what we're doing. Now, I would really recommend that you do a lot of this. But they're both important parts of the process for kind of assimilating an artist's technique into yours. There are so many prominent artists that are very influenced by Keven Nowlan. I think the one that really stands out for me the most, just off the top of my head, would be Ryan Sook. Really amazing. You can see a lot of Keven Nowlan. You can see a lot of Adam Hughes, Mike Mignola. And another artist is it's a Canadian artist. Again, bad with names. Dang it. I know him really well. Yannick Piquet. Sketching the Bee says, I take it David and Eric aren't looking at the chat today. We are. We're trying. We're trying. I caught that one. All right. So he's got a bit of an indent for his...
Yeah, I'm in like brain overload over here.
Yeah, I know you're pretty quiet. All right.
Take a break and look at the chat. Yeah.
So I'm going to draw his... He's got a muscle here.
Oh, Jason Febbuck is here.
Really? Wow. Well, thank you, Jason.
I think he is saying Yannick. Is that Yannick Piquet?
Yannick, yeah. Michael Johnson Curry is here. Good to see you. He has a $2.99 super chat, and he says, if you had to guess, who have you studied the most? If you had to guess, who? Oh, if I guess
within your own artwork,
I would say, early on it was Mark Silvestri, and then it was Simon Bisley, and then I went through a Dale Keown phase, both Kubert brothers. I went through a phase, and then a lot of Frank Frazetta, Mike Mignola, and Keven Nowlan are the biggest ones for years, and I've got a bunch of other ones too, but those I would say would be the biggest. Okay, so I'm going to draw a shadow under this muscle here. Bit of a cut for the muscle above where it connects. There's a bit of a tendon here, so I want to get that in. I really like how he defined that knee. Let's just darken all that in the way he's got it. And he's coming back in with some shadow under here. I'm going to do that. It's unusual for me. I wouldn't do that, but I like how it looks, so I want to try it. What the heck? Just go dark here. That wasn't really looking good. And I think his looks amazing.
Is that the real Jason Faylock?
I don't know.
Eric, I love your stuff. Been learning a lot from watching the both of you guys.
And here, look at this. He's got this great shape here. And this is where now I'm going to kind of go back in and try and pick up shapes that I'm kind of losing that I think really actually worked. So he's got a shape here, and then another really great shape there. Really like that.
So you have one of your Black Manta drawings, David, which had the outside of the leg like that with that tendon connecting to the knee.
Yeah.
And I stared at that drawing for so long, and it's kind of that area that you're talking about there, yeah, where that tendon connects to the I don't know what it's called, part of the leg, whatever. But I'll see if I can get the picture, pull it up, and I'll be able to explain it a lot better. But yeah, that's such an important landmark when drawing the leg there.
Yeah, and I would have got that from another artist, and I couldn't remember who now. Now I wouldn't have got it when I did that picture, but I definitely would have gotten it, by this sort of study. So
that is the real Jason Faylock. I'm not sweating at all. I'm not, I'm not nervous at all.
Jason, you got to come on. We got to do this to you too. This is high pressure. I thought, that's be no problem, but
I'm pouring right now with sweat. Let's see.
Well, if I'm suffering, I'm glad you are too. All right, let me just finish his foot.
David Finch, Black Manta. See if I can get it. Here it is. Is it this one? Yeah.
Here, let's switch over.
Here we go. 1 second.
Okay. You know what, Jason? I think you absolutely could do Travis Dress. Actually, that would be great. You know what? I think I'd like to do that one next. I think that'd be a lot of fun. Maybe in a couple of weeks. That would be really great to do. All right, so I basically got this figure as done as I'm going to make them. And we're going to move on from here. That was very unusual for me. It's a very tall, kind of a lanky figure, and it looks really normal in his style. It's so different than what I do. Oh, Jordan Seward is here. Hey, Jordan. So yeah, it's strange for me, but is very interesting to do. So you've got it, Eric?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I remember when I saw this for the first time, it really jumped out to me, and I've always tried to incorporate that to the outside of the leg. Just the main tendon coming from the back and connecting there.
And I can tell you that I got from Simon Bisley.
Oh, okay, great.
Structure in there, that's all Simon Bisley.
Yeah. Awesome.
So yeah, yours came out great. It looks really good.
Yeah, now it's the memory portion.
Yeah. You know what? I think we're going to skip the memory portion because
yeah,
already 308. And what I want to do now is I want to draw our own figure, and then what I'm going to do, I'm going to draw. You know what? Let's skip over here. Sorry, Eric.
Yeah, right.
I'm going to say, okay, I'll draw whatever figure, and then let's say I'm struggling with the back, and he does this beautiful back here. I'll see what I can pick up from it. And anyway, we're going to go through the book, and I'm going to try and use it as reference for my own drawing. And this is really the next step in how I use reference to draw. Now, drawing that face and drawing that figure is something you want to do a lot more of. You're not going to get it from 2 drawings. It takes more, but this is really the last part of this, and I wanted to kind of get this one in here too. And I don't want this stream to go crazy long, so I figure we'll be done in 2 hours. All right. Bauer BXO Kurdistan says, nice, Faybox should be part of the next stream. Actually, yeah, anytime. And I've been talking to him about doing something, and he's not against it. So, at some point, maybe this summer, it'd be really good to get together and do a stream. Okay. So,
are we doing it?
Here's what we're gonna. Now, because I'm drawing my own figure, Are you gonna do your own?
Are you doing the same? Yeah, you're doing the same pose, right?
No.
Oh no.
No, I want to draw my own. I'm gonna draw like here. I'm gonna draw. Here's a head. You guys have seen me do this kind of a figure a bunch of times. He's bent over, and now this is why it's so good for me to be doing what we just did there, and I need to do more. Is when you do your own work, you have a real tendency to draw the same kinds of poses. Greg L says, "Hey Dave, will you have time to get to my W?" I don't understand. My W?
To my question from the painting stream. Hey Dave, will you have time to get to my question from the painting stream?
What was the question? I can't remember.
Was that with like drawing? Wasn't it like a cyber? Wasn't he talking about cyborgs on like hand cannon or something? I don't know. Maybe I'm totally butchering it. Greg, just paste it in the chat. And I think he was asking about drawing. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see when he pastes it in there.
So I really like that hand that he did. I'm really light here. This will darken up in just a minute. I should probably even just do my sketch a little bit darker so you guys can see it. I like that hand. So the wrist was here. My knuckles were here. Then I had that here. And my thumb came out just about like that. It popped out. And that's basically the form you had. And so I am copying it already. So I'm already learning.
What do you want me to draw, Dave?
Sketching the Beast is heading out. Well, it's good to see you here. Thanks for popping in. Hopefully we'll see you again soon. Meme Duca says, Dave, have you ever tried animating? No. Sorry, what'd you say, Eric?
What do you want me to draw?
You know what? It doesn't matter. Let's say we can't draw Captain America because let's say Wolverine. How about that? Okay. You could do Batman.
Yeah, I can do that too. I'll need to get something similar to that Green Lantern pose so I can do what I did there.
Okay. Control Incorporated says, greeting from Queens. Thank you so much. Okay. So because I've got this arm forward, I kind of want to put this leg forward like that. Put this leg back. I'm going to angle his hips more like this. It's just a really quick block in right now. And this is a very different figure than what Keven Nowlan would do generally, I think. This is so Mark Silvestri, John Buscema influenced this kind of a pose, this figure. Now, the reason for that is because for my figure drawing, for my, by the way, his foot's cut off. I know. Here, let me give him a foot off the page. Everybody says I never draw feet, which is true. But generally speaking, it's because I don't have room. And I don't want a tiny little figure just so I can get a foot in there. There you go, foot. All right. Nighthawk Warrior Comics says, what would you do? I can't speak, Eric. If you have a comic story in mind and want to make it, but are unsure if anyone would read it, well, you know what? No one's going to read it if you don't make it. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to start to tighten my figure in, and then we're going to start to use some reference. I'll use reference for the face first. It's the most important part for me, and the lighting that I use on the face is going to influence the rest of the figure.
So you're just taking what you took from the Green Lantern piece, right? And applying it to this one, Dave?
I'm taking it. This is overall Keven Nowlan, but what I'm doing, The actual drawing is going to be my own. I'm going to try and use Keven Nowlan's lighting.
Yeah.
Because that's really, when it comes to Keven Nowlan, the thing that I get out of his art is his lighting. That's really my big takeaway from it over the years. And so I want to show you exactly how I kind of go about that when I'm looking at an artist and trying to pick up influence from them. I'm trying to do this so fast. I'm watching the drawing right now.
There's actually a Batman in this book I may just reference for now.
All right. I know this is a little different than what we did with Frazetta. Already, look at his head. This happens to me all the time. Not usually so badly. I think, you know what? I'm going to blame it on drawing that figure that threw me so much. It was so strange to draw. It's like it's messing with my head right now.
Which one was that?
The figure that we just did.
Yeah.
So different than what I normally would draw. It was very forgetting how to just draw my own all of a sudden. Drawn a very weak looking Wolverine. Gotta fix it. Cut. And this is
Greg posted his question somewhere. Let me have a look. See if I remember correctly. Oh yeah, I was close. Yeah, I was very close. For characters like Cyborg or Blue Beetle that have cybernetics that allow them to turn their arms into mech cannons, how would you draw the arm cannon?
Okay. Let's just do it right here. So I've got my arm. Here it is. Okay, and so I'm going to draw his arm coming out into a cannon. Now, I'm not going to be able to draw this really tight, or at all. But this is just regular arm. He's got this muscle here. Now, there are so many ways to do this, but here's how I would like to do it. So I've got his elbow kind of here, but I'm going to turn that into a bit of a tube. And then another tube here. I'm going to wrap it. So I want this to be a little bit organic, and then as it goes down, it's going to start to get a little bit more straight lined. So there's this muscle here. I'm going to start to wrap that into some tubing. Wrap under here. Here's some more tubes. And then I've got another, this is like a hard shape here. And a hard shape here, this tube's going to wrap over that. Let that wrap here. And, you can obviously make this gun much more like it could have more of a proper gun shape. I'm just drawing a whole bunch of cannon shapes kind of coming out of here. So, but the theory behind it is you want to take your basic, more anatomical kind of stuff and start to translate it into, something more mechanical as it goes down. And then it's just using negative space to get that stuff defined. magazine. There you go. I don't know if it would have a magazine on a gun like that, but and then you can, when you do tubes. So here's a tube. I'm going to draw a line between the two tubes, but just one line doesn't look that great. If I double up the line, it looks better already. And then I can just put a little bit of dotting, and I'll give it another line even. And you just want to give it just enough that it has a bit of texture and looks much more real. So just by doubling your line, giving a little bit of shadowing detail in there, I could do something like that there. I'm going to go a little thicker here. It's lit from above, so this is indented. And then I can do like tubing detail all the way up. And I could just go straight across with this like this. But I kind of like doing something a little bit more like this. Maybe I could put something in like this and shadow that. And then it's just, it's a matter of collecting up all that detail. But that's really kind of how I would go about that personally. That's basically it. I hope that's helpful. Okay. Icarus has a $2 super chat. Thank you so much. He says, "What Wolverine are you sketching? Classic or brown?" I have no idea. I guess brown. My favorite is the brown costume, so let's just say brown. So it's gonna have this kind of a thing here. What's interesting to me too, Keven Nowlan inked me one time on a picture, and he really corrected for a lot of things, and it was very, very informative for me to be able to see what he felt like worked and what he felt like he needed to go in and fix. And it's the same thing for me when I'm drawing from somebody else for reference. I know what works for me in my kind of overall understanding and what doesn't. And so, yeah, I learned a lot just from seeing how he interpreted things in my drawing. So you can see this is much more, it looks like my art, or obviously I'm not looking at Keven Nowlan for this, but we will be in just a minute. So I'm trying to make this as fast as possible, which is why it's looking a little janky, but it's all right. And he had this kind of a detail between his fingers, which I thought looked pretty cool. So I'm going to try it. Thumb came out here. Came out a little wide up there. Look at that perfect tangent. Dang it. I'm going to have to bring that leg in just a little bit more. I tangented perfectly with that thumb. Okay, so I've basically got mine drawn in. I just come along.
Horrible. I got thrown for such a loop. I'm trying to catch up.
Oh, no. You want me to give you a minute? Or can we take a look?
Please.
Right. Okay. So while you do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through my book here. And I'm going to start at the end because there are some really great faces toward the end here. And I want to find something that I think is going to work for Wolverine's face. And so I've drawn my own face. It's not a Keven Nowlan face, but I can still pick up a lot of the lighting for it. See one I like already. Let's keep looking just a little bit. Okay. Okay. I'm going to zoom in.
Give me 1 second, Dave. Let's see. Jason Fairback asked a good question for you. I'm going to find it real quick.
Okay.
Dave, have you ever met Keven Nowlan?
Yeah. I met him, I think the first time was probably about 4 years ago at a convention. This is where we always meet, you know? Yeah, he was super nice. He was great. And we talked about doing some Batman covers together. I really wanted to do it. And yeah, it hasn't happened yet. At some point, if not Batman, definitely I'd like to have him ink some stuff again. I mean, the amount you learn from working with another artist, especially he's a finisher. Now, this is all his own artwork, but he also does a lot of ink finishes over other artists. So, okay. So I'm just going to say this face here, I really like it. It's not at the same angle. There's also this face here. This face here, I don't like it as much, but it's more at the same angle. Now, I'm just going to go with this one because I like it. So I'm just going to adapt and see what I can get from it. So he's going under the eye here. Bit of a circular shape. And then cuts right there. And I like how that looks. And then for this eye, he's here. This is more of a... Whoops. Went into my eye bit. There. He's got a bit of a line. Now, I've got my Wolverine mask, so I'm going to have to adapt that a little bit. I can't just draw that whole nose. But I can get a lot of that in there. And I think I'm going to open my mouth the way he did because I just like how it looked. So he's got that little bit there. And then the shadow from the nose it doesn't go down that far. Just about like that. And then his mouth, I'm going to just draw that mouth. I like it. In a minute, we're going to put Eric on the spot.
I've been on the spot. Yeah, you can do that here.
And I'm not doing this to you because you were beating me with the Green Lantern picture. I promise. You really did, though. I mean, that came out so well. That was really impressive.
Oh, thanks. This one's different. I promise.
Okay, I got to see. Let's check it out.
I'm trying to copy the reference of...
I'm for the damage.
Hmm?
I said, oh, that's looking good. You are so self-critical. It's not healthy. Shani B says, David, when you get someone to ink your work, do you normally pay them? Also, if you do a sketch for someone, do you charge them a fee? That's not the typically commission. Now, I don't pay someone to ink my work because it would be a cover for DC, or Marvel, whatever, or whoever, so they would pay. If I do a sketch for someone, yeah, I do commissions. So, I definitely charge. Like these pictures that I'm doing here, they'll end up just going in the round bin. I got to be honest. I have so much YouTube art that I just chuck in the garbage. I don't know what I'm going to do with it otherwise. Lance Boye says, Eric and I almost did the same pose. And Supersonico says, looks fine, Eric, which it does.
Okay, cool.
Paula says, it's looking great. Daryl Banks says, Keven Nowlan has inked me on some Green Lantern covers. Hey, it's Daryl Banks. Well, thank you so much for coming. And that's really great to have you here. I'm honored. He says, Keven really understands planes as a compositional element. Yeah, he does, like no one else. I mean, well, okay, there's so many great artists. I don't want to say like no one else, but he does it in such a beautiful way. And yeah, thank you so much for coming. Okay, I'm going to switch back and keep going here. But yeah, that's looking really good. Okay. So underneath his lip here, I feel like I've gone a little bit. I've got his teeth here. I'm going to pick... Let me just clean that up a little bit. Okay. So I want it to be about there and gets wider here and then kind of wider here too. And then I've got my chin. See how this all comes together. Hopefully it will. And then along the side of the face, kind of came in here a little bit. Okay, and so he's got a bit of a line. Let me find my nose there. It's got a bit of a line here, not too much. It's kind of obscured, but I can kind of see it, and I'm just going to interpret because there. And I like how that came out. It's different than I would have done, and that's the point for me. You know, I want to kind of pick some of these things up and see what I can get out of it. That came up just a little bit higher here. All right. Okay, I'm going to leave that alone. I'm going to cast a shadow underneath his head. He's lit really from here. That's kind of what I'm seeing. So I'm just going to go ahead and cast a shadow here quickly. Not perfect, but you know what? This is just a quick rough in for my shadow. And I can always add to it or take away from it. Hopefully not take away. Okay, so now we're going to go on to the arms. I'm going to see what I can pick up. And look at this on the same page. Check out how cool that arm looks. And look at that hand. I'm stealing it. And this is totally not planned, so usually it's so much harder. Okay, let's see if I can find a way to get this arranged. Destroying my book. Okay, so he's got... Now, it's not exactly the same angle, but I do like how you can see, based on that angle, he's got that muscle kind of popping past, and I'm tending to draw it too far out this way. So I'm going to try and fix for that. And I think that's something where I can kind of make hopefully an improvement going forward. I've been noticing that I've been doing that. So that kind of comes all the way down here. And then he's thinning it out here. And I'm not really 100% on exactly how he's got that anatomy placed, but I don't care because I like how it looks. So I'm just going with it. And I think that looked pretty cool. I've got a different shape going on here, unfortunately, but that's all right. This is where I'm going to, kind of just be adaptive.
And Joe Barron says, the shadows and line work are definitely my favorite things about yours and Keven Nowlan's art.
Well, thank you very, very much.
Can you zoom out a bit, Dave?
Oh, shoot. I didn't even... I'm looking at my reference, making sure that's in my camera here. I'm not even thinking this whole time. You guys have nothing better to do than watch a shadow waving around to you. Okay, I'm sorry. Here, let me pick this up too. All right. I'm getting a glare. In a minute, I'm going to end up tearing this thing out of the book. Here, let me fold it like this. Okay. Don't worry, I wouldn't do that. So he's totally shadowed here. I'm going to give that a try. My hand got a little bit strange, and this is a result of me. And this is what I'm talking about when I say my art can get a little strange when I start looking at another artist too much, and I haven't really assimilated it into my own work. Things get a little bit odd, and that's happening here. Like that, you know what? I need to fix it. That hand is ridiculous. Take a second here and fix that. And I've got his hand here, which looks awesome. So off the page again. Okay.
This is definitely helping me. The way his head attaches to his trapezoid.
Now,
Really like the way he does that.
I could point out that I've been telling you to do this for months, but I won't do that. I have been,
You have. I'm trying to think of the words to say, and I'm reaching, and I'm not finding them.
I think your excuse is young children and jobs. Well, young child and jobs. That hand is very different for me. Like I don't think it really came out that well. I didn't really pick that up very well. I think I'm going to move on just because we're kind of moving on, but that wasn't ideal. All right. Another line kind of here, which I like. And again, with the...
Yeah, I don't know what it is, having issues with the head connecting to the neck. I remember one of the things you let me know about, which was an instant help, was drawing rim lighting from the one side to show it connecting properly. My heads used to float a lot on figures.
Oh, right, yeah.
And having them grounded with light and shadow really helps.
Yep. So I kind of took that lighting I want to bring this down a little bit more. And I'm kind of going through, and even though it's not really the same angle, I don't need it to be. What I need is just, I'm looking for, and I also know how to draw too, a lot of things. No comments. Okay, so yeah, I think that's going to work. Now for his body here, I kind of want to try this. And it's not going to work exactly because, again, the angle isn't exactly the same, but it's all right. And you know what? I don't even have I'm looking at my camera and not looking at the chat, so I can't even see when somebody's saying something. And Shani B says, David, I hope you don't think it's nitpicking, but wouldn't the top of his hand be in light? Just curious. Certainly don't know what No, you're totally right. It really would be in light, and I think that's part of the reason why it looks wrong. So, yeah, there you go. It absolutely would be in light. What was I doing? And, the reason this isn't in light is because it's turned to the side, so it's away from his light. And this total mistake of me just mindlessly copying. Let's pretend that didn't happen. And that's where, it's not nitpicking, because that kind of thing right there, that'll destroy the illusion of your drawing. And I really did there, and I knew I didn't like it. But I'm sitting here not really thinking about why. So, yeah, I appreciate the comment. Okay, so he had a bit of a shape here, and he's opened it up with some line work, but I'm going to leave that alone. This here, it kind of peaks here. I'm just going to darken this. Losing that nuance, but that's all right. What I want more than anything right now is just to get some of those basic shape combinations. And he's got a bit more here. And I need to be kind of careful too. I'm not drawing the same angle, so I need to now just start to draw my own stomach to account for the fact that the angle isn't the same. So I can't just... And I've done this where, I'm drawing along and I'm looking at something and the angle's not really the same. And next thing you know, I'm drawing like this weird kind of turned form on top of... Yeah, I think you know what I mean. All right. Rise Above says, I'm skipping this drawing, but I had a lot of fun doing the other two with you guys. Understandable. Thank you, Ed. But you know what? And I debated doing this one if I wanted to go about doing this example, because this is really like a practical use of somebody else's light in your own work. And this is how if you're drawing a page and whatever, and you want to like pick up some things so you can get some influence, this is the way to do it. So I thought it was really important to put in. It's a little more difficult to follow along because I'm kind of making it up just a little bit more. But hopefully this is kind of instructive just for what it is. Maybe this would have worked better just in a video, but I really wanted to do this. And if it doesn't work and you guys don't, you guys will have to let me know. If you really don't think that conceptually this is working and we're better off just doing studies, we will do that. The next artist, who's going to be Travis Trest. That's coming up next. All right. Okay, so now I've got this arm here, and I'm going to see if I can find something. Sheldon Martin says, I'm copying David, copying Kevin. Powell says, for $5, thank you so much. Says, drawing together with you, David, Eric, and the rest is unbelievable. It's awesome what technology allows us. David, you're a massive inspiration. Well, thank you so much. Yeah, you know what? I'd love that we can do this. It really is great. It's the one thing that I wish we could do is I can read chat and I miss some, unfortunately, but yeah, it's more difficult to communicate than it would be nice. We could more. K-Pack has a $5 super chat. Thank you so much. He says, how long does it take you to pencil a comic page? Do you develop your own drawing style as a comic artist by doing this? How? Yeah, well, okay, first of all, it takes me, it depends. A penciled page will take me probably about 8 hours, and I'm going to call that average. And developing your style, this is the way you do it. Now, the more I did this, the more my style would start to lean toward Keven Nowlan, you know? And so if that's what I really want is to draw very much like Keven Nowlan, or, you know, I could just make it to my goal to draw exactly like Keven Nowlan. And there's nothing wrong with that too, because you don't make that your end game. You know, you make it your immediate goal. You get as much as you can, and then you find another artist. And when you take Keven Nowlan and mix him with, Simon Bisley, you know, whatever, pick an artist of your choice. You right away will have a style, and it will be different than anybody else's. And the more you do that, the more eventually will people look at your stuff and say, wow, you know, how'd you develop that style? You have such a, you know, and you think, wow, really? I can't believe that people think it's a style. Anthony G is here. He says, I love that soup. So majestic. Yeah, he's great. All right. So what I'm doing right now is I've got this arm here, and I'm kind of trying to find something that's going to work for that arm. And if I can't, and this is where, you know what, I'm only willing to ever go so far with reference. I'm not, you know, spending hours trying to find the right drawing for an arm. And if I can't, then I just do it myself. Honestly, I just do this myself anyway, generally, like, you know, but. And then there's something like this. This is Keven Nowlan inks over Alan Weiss pencils. And he was pretty... you can see that he really followed the pencils very closely, and stylistically, I don't think that's going to work for me. Oh, here we go.
Jim Klein, Keven Nowlan did the inks for Joe Quesada on the Sleepwalker Holiday Special, which is one of my favorite images of one of my favorite characters. I need to study his work more.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That is one of the greatest Marvel covers of all time. And he also inked Joe Quesada on Sword of Azrael, which was really one of my top, I don't know if not my top, certainly like top 3, top 4 comics of all time. And I highly recommend it for reference. Atomic Bulldog Art says Nowlan and Quesada also did the legendary Batman 500 cover. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to use this arm for this right here. And so for starters, I've got this kind of a shape here. And by the way, for me to get, because your muscle, like your deltoid, has a front muscle, a middle muscle, and then a back muscle. And it is always going to look like here. Let me just, you know, light it from here. So here's that muscle. Here's that muscle. And maybe a little bit for the back. And that does not look good at all. For you to take your work and develop it past that point, this is how you do it. Find somebody that does this kind of thing and does it really beautifully. And you just, you know, pick up what you can, and you pick up more and more every time. So he's got this here, and he's doing a bit of an underlighting, which he's kind of defining this way. I mean, look at how great this is looking already from what that would have looked like. And this is what I really struggled with in the beginning, is way too much of my anatomy looking like this, because I was just following the rules that as I knew them, and that nuance that really gives you something that has like some nice shape to it and believability. This is how you really go about that. You know, you can also photo reference too. I do that a little bit, but for the most part, I don't want to be in not a fine artist. I'm a comic book artist. And so that's what my influence is, and I'm unashamed of that. All right. So he's got this line kind of coming down here. I'm going to draw that lower just because my arm's a lot thicker. Are you lighting yet?
A little bit, yeah.
All right, I'm going to finish my arm quickly, and then we'll switch over and see how you're coming along, and then we'll do a leg.
Pizza Monster Art, kind of what you were talking about. He asked, it scrolled, 1 second. He was basically asking, do you ever take pictures of yourself for reference?
Very, very rarely, but yeah. I don't do it so much just because it's such a hassle. Setting up a camera and putting it on the timer, I forget it. And I just don't use reference that much. I feel like that was a little high. It's not really a huge part of the way that I draw. For the most part, I don't use reference. And when I do, this is kind of how I do it. So, I have artists like Frank Rosetta that I really love copying. And this is a great pose here. And so, I'll do a quick sketch just to get the general kind of a pose. The other shoulder was here. And I just want to get like a general statement of that pose. Anyway, yeah. Pencil's getting caught in my phone or my microphone. All right. So yeah, I basically got he's got a bit of a bump out here. This is how this kind of nuance, like that little bump there leading into here. You can see how he's defined that. This is where I got all this stuff. Not this picture, but pictures like it from Keven Nowlan and some others, but really, especially for this kind of stuff, Keven Nowlan is peerless. I mean, that hand already is looking pretty good, just kind of copying some of his basic little shapes there. So there you go. That's basically it. I'm going to stop with that arm. And all in all, I mean, that's working pretty well. His proportions are a little jacked, and I've got his hand going on here, but that's not bad. And this is me all just kind of picking things up from Keven Nowlan's lighting as much as I can. All right. Russex says, can you talk about Nolan's amazing page layouts and Jack B. Quick page 67 to 62? I have to be honest, I am not familiar with his Jack B. Quick. Only really through this book here. I'm more of a fan of his superhero art, so and I haven't really seen it that much. So I mean, yeah, no, I just don't know. Okay, so let's switch over and see how Eric's doing. It's looking good. It's looking a little. Oh, there we go. It was looking a little out of focus or pixelated, but
maybe if my hands are a little bit better.
Oh, do you have it on autofocus?
I hope not. Let me have a look real quick. I know I took it off before. Maybe there was an update or something. Let's see. Autofocus is off, so that's good.
All right. Yeah, like that arm, the one that's pointed downward, the one closer to us, the lighting on his bicep, I think looks really, really good. His shoulder, I feel like his deltoid could have a little more nuance to that lighting, and I think you know I would work on that. But this is really the way that you really kind of get those shapes really working. The legs look great. His chest, or his rib cage. I think that's the best rib cage I've seen you do. Just the transition into the stomach. Yeah, you definitely have to do this more. Look at how quickly, you're picking up so much from it fast. It really does work.
Yeah. Yeah, I like the way he transitions from the pick to the, like, normally I would add shading here.
Yep.
I don't know,
Yeah.
it's quite neat.
Yeah, it's really nicely done. All right, we're gonna move on to a leg, and once we get this leg done, we're gonna wrap it up. And so I've got my basic anatomy here. You can see I've got this muscle lightly defined. I haven't really defined these ones. I know where they are though. This muscle's here. Lung tendon kind of muscle leads up to there. I've got that. So, and my knee is basically here. Now it's all loose, but it's all in there. And so let's take a look through here and see what we can. Melody says, "Wow, amazing work, Eric." And Bauer says, "Nice." Greg L says, "It looks great." Let's see, too self-critical. All right, see what I can find.
Were you looking for a leg?
Yep.
Let's see. There was a Hulk earlier. Oh, you got pants on. No.
Oh, look at this. It's actually the figure that you're using, but I don't care. It's going to work.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay.
There's also a Mr. Miracle on 105, but that one...
Let's check it out. 105. Yeah, it's really good, but it would, by the way, so you guys can see it. This is it here. It's good, but the angle's a little different. Shani B says, "David, do you plan on doing the artist studies around this day and time again going forward? It's a perfect time for me and I can attend," which is great. Yeah, I kind of like the idea of doing some streams during the day just because they're always at night. And honestly, we had people coming over, so I couldn't do it tonight. Yeah, so 2:00 worked really well. It seemed to be a good time. Okay, let me see if I can get everything into the camera here. Oh, Edward Lee says, "Next time, can you give us a book you're referencing so we can follow along at a slower pace?" Yeah, absolutely. And apologies for that, Edward. It's okay. Well, not just that. I had actually told Eric the book we'd be looking at, and it turned out to be a different book because I couldn't find it. Since we moved, I don't have shelves. All my stuff is such a disaster everywhere. All right. So, but I will try to do that going forward. I think we'll plan. We're going to do, by the way, going forward, we have Johnny Desjardins who'll be coming on. Johnny Desjardins is a Boom Studios, Dynamite, Marvel, DC. He's worked a bunch of different places. He's a local artist here. And he's been doing palette knife paintings that are very, very cool. He's been putting them up on his Instagram. And I have been trying to get him to come in and do a stream about some of his palette knife painting. I wanted to give it a try. It's all oil, which I don't normally use. I've got some oil, so I'm going to follow along, and it's going to be embarrassing for me, but I thought it'd be a lot of fun. So that's coming up, maybe not next week, but the week after. We'll have another painting stream again soon. So yeah, we've got a bunch of stuff planned coming up. Also, I have another tutorial video coming out just as soon as Yuri is finished editing. So that should be very soon too. All right, let me get into this here so we're not here till we all die. So I'm going to start with his knee, which you can see he's got it defined just like this. So I'm going to bring it down here, comes out just like this, and it comes into a bit of a pocket. There we go. And down. I'm not going to worry about his boot here. And then on the outside of that, and this is kind of deviating from my anatomy a little bit, but I like it. So I'm going to keep going with it.
Can you interview Ariel Olivetti and Mark Silvestri? I know Ariel really wanted to come on, but he's Spanish, and he was just a bit concerned about the English aspect of the interview or any kind of stream where he has to talk or explain something.
I know, yeah, that's something like there's got to be a way that we could work through that. Maybe somebody, one of you guys that speaks Spanish could help with that. Something we could talk about. Okay, and so I've got to shadow just in here, and you know, you guys are seeing this leg twice now. Eric just did this one. Now I'm using it too, and the difference being that we just have a different pose. So, but it's the same anatomy. I know my anatomy that I have here, and so I'm using his lighting and making sure to line it up with my anatomy, and that's it. And he really barely defined that muscle. I'm going to define it a little bit more than that. Personal choice, I guess. And then he's got a bit of a gap here. I think I'm going to close that in just because he's got a bit of a kind of a rim light there. Now, when I make these choices, I don't know if they're going to work better or not, but ultimately it's your own artwork. So you kind of have to, you know, use your reference and then don't let it rule you. And I think that leg turned out great. I'm really happy with it.
Yeah, really good.
That's more nuanced than what I would ever do on my own. Now he's got some shapes in here that it gets a little bit, it's different for me. So I'm kind of leaving it there. And now for this leg, we're totally going to cheat. It's in shadow. There we go.
What really looks cool here, Dave, is so you have that edge lighting, but then you have a dark shape between the kneecap and the edge lighting. It looks really, really good. So you have, you have the kneecap, and to the right you have shadow, and then you have more edge lighting. Yeah, that looks really, really good like that. Yeah.
Well, it's all from here.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, I'm just quickly roughing in the other leg, and there it is. So yeah, there's a figure really kind of, and now I could add my own detail and take it, you know, in my own direction a little bit more. I don't know what I just did there, but there's always, you know, I don't need to let the reference that I'm using completely define what I'm doing. I'm using it as an enhancement of what I know. And that's really the idea. And this is what makes this kind of learning really work. And, you know, you do this over a course of you're working on a book, and you do this for a few months, and you would be amazed at the difference it'll make. And this is why when you see an artist, they're working on, you know, whatever it is, and you can see those big leaps in their technique, like they just get better every issue. Well, they're not doing that in a vacuum. It's not possible. They are looking at other artists and doing this, and then that's just building for them. Jim Klein says, Dave, have you ever studied or looked at Marvel paintings by Greg and Tim Hildebrandt? I always thought they were cool and had great lighting. Yeah, I've got a book on their stuff that I really, really love. And I've seen some videos of them painting actually too. So yeah, they're incredible.
Everyone's volunteering El Padrino to translate.
Well, El Padrino says, I have this on mute because I'm in class, but I can't wait to watch this and hear what's happening right now. El Padrino can't even hear us. Come on. Well, you know what? If he'll do it, yeah, I would love to do it if Ariel would be willing. I think how amazing would that be for us to both be able to paint along while he's.
Oh man, that would be amazing. Yeah,
it really would be incredible. Oh, he says, Art9, of course I would. I could even talk to Ariel about this on his Discord. Yeah, you know what, El Padrino, if you would be willing to do that, that would be great. I definitely love to do it. I think it would be really incredible for all of us. So we're going to switch over and see what you got here, Eric.
Just finishing it off a bit.
It's funny, when I'm switching over, it's getting a bit of a, it takes a second for it to unblur. I don't know if that's on my end or what, but yeah.
It's probably my side. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it needs my hand first, or I don't know. I definitely have autofocus off.
Yeah. Strange. Kenny Wang is back. Stream saved. There we go. Yeah, that's looking really good. So all in all, how do you feel about how this all kind of came together?
No, I like it. Yeah, there's definitely pieces that I've picked up from doing this that I'm going to take forward for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is where, you know, it's a bit of a sacrifice of time to do, you know, some of the stuff that we did first, like some of our sketches. So in case some of you missed the beginning, we did, I think this is my second one. Let's see. So this was a head study, and this was just really directly copying Keven Nowlan's work. And then we did a drawing just completely on our own. I did this one. This actually took long enough that I didn't want to just do it on my own. I thought, okay, it'll be here for 4 hours. So I moved on from that, but it would be very useful to do this. The same thing. Basically, you just go through, draw the figure on your own. The more complex what you're drawing is, the more you're going to lose. It's all right, though, because everything that you pick up and you keep is now yours, so, and then, finally from there, we just moved on. And this figure here is drawn very much using Keven Nowlan's lighting. And I don't know if looking at this, you can see how, to me, this really doesn't look very different than what I would do just on my own. And really, Eric, the reason for that is so much of my lighting is from Keven Nowlan. So it just, kind of makes sense. I'm really,
makes sense, yeah.
I'm not exactly
even there on your pecs, on the from the deltoid and the bicep to the pec, the lack of shading there is definitely something I need to work on, and I'm seeing it in your work now, and as well as Keven. He doesn't add much detail there under the pec, and that's because they're flexed more. But
well, I
it
find
just really adds so much more to the shading, or to the lack
really
of it.
does. It really works well, and I find like a really heavy shadow underneath the pec it tends to look brutish. It doesn't ever work for me. So yeah, I'm always much more this is the way I've always done it, and I've picked this up from Keven Nowlan and other artists. So there you go. All right, well, I think I'm finished. Powell says it's like the base is yours, but the details are Kevin's. Yeah, absolutely. And the amount of published work that I have that was drawn just like this, it's a lot. I'm telling you right now. The amount of times I'm flipping through a book going, oof, I don't know how to make this work. And I'm looking at how, Keven Nowlan does it, or Mike Vignola, all the time. And it's how you get better.
Absolutely. Yeah. Committing to memory, like we did at first as well, it's difficult, but that's where you grow with it. You kind of work in that memory muscle.
Yep, for sure. Well, I'm really looking forward to doing Travis Trex next, and I've done it. So I just want to say, Travis Trex, he came out with Wildcats X-Men, and this would have been 95, 96 maybe. And it blew me away, and I just felt like quitting, and I can't remember. I think maybe Joe Bonita said, just try it. And so El Padrino says, Dave, I'll translate for you. Yeah, absolutely, El Padrino, I'm in. And so I did. I spent really an hour doing this, maybe 2 hours, probably 2 hours, and already I felt like, okay, this is working, and once I felt like it was working, I spent probably 2 days just doing exactly this. And I came out of that 2 days a totally different artist. It, there really was a before Travis for me and an after. And it's when my work really kind of came together just before I did Ascension, which was 97. So I guess that would be the year. And he's still to this day one of my biggest influences. And I've looked at his work. I mean, it's not like I'd never looked at his work again, but really 99% of it for me is from that week. So, this is how you do it. All right. Hold on. If I'm going to say goodbye, I might as well at least say goodbye this way. All right. Oh, shoot. Hang on. There. All right. Eric, you want to say anything before we go?
Yeah. Thanks so much, Dave. Again, this is so much fun, and just it's such a good way to practice. I hear a lot of times people say, well, how do I get better? How do I practice? What do I, this is the perfect way to do it. Grab your favorite comic, your favorite artist, copy what he's doing, commit it to memory, try to draw it from memory, and just keep doing it over and over. This is the perfect way to get better, if nothing else.
It really is, and especially understanding that looking at somebody's work, it can be gratifying, but you don't learn from it. You really need to draw from it, and it's it's a way to do it. So yeah, we will see you guys next week for what are we gonna do next week? Do you want to do a painting, or do you want to do Travis next week? What do you think?
I am really excited to try some of your method with using the gray pencil and really get some better values with a painting.
Right.
That might be a lot of fun, but I mean, this is too.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll talk about it. We'll figure it out. We'll have some information as quickly as possible, because if we're going to be using a book, I want to make sure that you guys have a chance to get it, hopefully, so it's easier to follow along.
Yeah. I know Space Girl is online. I think the entirety of it is online. Travis's Space Girl.
Okay. Great. All right. So yeah, thanks everyone so much. Again, that was a lot of fun. I feel like these are always a little bit disjointed. I felt like that about the Frazetta one too, which is wow, I'm up all over the place, but that's the nature of this. So we just kind of take it as it comes and have some fun with it. So thank you so much for doing this with us, and we will see you guys next week, sometime, maybe Friday. We'll have to figure that out too. All right. Good night, everybody. Wait, it's daytime. Good afternoon, everybody. All right. Bye.
Bye, guys.